Hi guys, Mr. Wilson here, and this is one of the topics that students generally find the hardest, and it's not the easiest to explain, and it will take you a little while to get your head around. But sometimes when we move on from the trig graphs, we have a function of x. So we're not told the equation of the line, it's just a function. We don't need to know it. If we know it, actually makes it more complicated. And we're told a coordinate. Sometimes it's the minimum, sometimes it's any coordinate on here. But there you go, it's -1, -3. And we want to know what coordinate we will end up on if we perform lots of different various transformations. Now, I personally recommend my pupils to go back to their trig graphs and think, what did this do? So it's a plus on its own, and that actually moved it up or down the y-axis. So this one is actually looks something like this. So it would move it up to, so our new midline was there, but it would still do the same sort of curve. So it's actually moving up to. So if you think about this coordinate being 91, it is still 90, but it's 93. So for this one, it's not going to move left or right, so I know it's going to be -1, but I know it's going to move up to, so that's also going to be -1. Now, this was, when it's a +2 on the end, that went up and down. This one went left and right. And because it was a negative, it meant it moved right. So before we looked at it moving like this. So this means move right 3. So we're going to go back up here. It's just going to move along to the right 3 places. So it's going to go from -1 to 2. And the y's will not change. So this one here would be 2 -3. So they are your translators, 2 up and 3 right. Now, I don't use my trig graphs for this one. I use my knowledge of x squared graphs, like parabolas. So that's x squared. But if I put a minus in the front, it reflects it like that. So it means if I'm putting a minus in the front, I am reflecting it in this line here, the x-axis. So let's go back up. Here's my x. I'm reflecting this point in this line, so it's going to appear like the same distance away. So it's definitely going to be the same in the x, so that's going to be -1. And if it was -3 that way, it's now going to be 3 that way. And there we go, -1, 3. So if that was a reflection in the x, this must be the reflection in the y. So let's go back up. So the y coordinate is going to be the same, so it's going to be roughly there. So it's going to be 1, because it's 1 away, so it's going to be 1 away. So I'm just put that here. And the y coordinate will not change, so it's going to be -3. Okay, so the more you practice these, the easier it will get, and obviously sometimes we combine more than one together, but I'm not going to do that in this video. I'm just going to show you the basics. Now, this is when it starts to get a little bit more difficult. Now, here's sine x, and if we do 2 sine x, that made it amplitude change. That made it go up to 2, back down to the same point, and then down to -2. If you consider these coordinates, we have 90 and 1, and then we have 180. Sorry, we don't at all. We have 90 and 2. You can see that the x coordinates haven't changed, but the y coordinates have doubled. And that means that's what you have to apply to our question. So our x's are going to stay the same, and our y coordinates are going to double, because it was a 2 basically. So the x's will stay the same. So see if I can get this in one shot. Here we go. So the x's are going to stay the same, so it's -1, but the y coordinates are doubling, so that's going to be -6. It's going to be down here somewhere. Alright, so this is probably the hardest one to get your head around. So here's sine x. So imagine it said this, sine 3x. That means there'd be 3 of them in this 360-degree cycle. So it's got to be 3 times closer together. So if it took to 90 degrees before, it's now going to take to 30. Then it's going to come down, reach its lowest point, and look something like this. But there'll be 3 of those, so it'll be nice and tight in there. If you consider this point and this point and look for a pattern, so we have 90 and 1, but there's 3 of them, so it's dividing by 3. This one was 30 and 1. The x coordinates have divided by this number, and the y coordinates have stayed the same. So I'll write this up again here. So the x coordinates, we just said we're going to divide by this number. So the x coordinate is going to be divided by 3, so minus a third, 1 divided by 3. And the y's stayed the same. So those last 2 are quite tough. However, you will get it with practice. But remember, this is A*, only aiming at the best of the